You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. Welcome to the show. The interview subject I have lined up for you is Max Cavalera. I think I'm up to half a dozen or 7 conversations with him for the podcast series. It's always a joy to talk to the man, I must say, and I reckon this is my favourite conversation thus far. They just get better and better. Now, the catalyst for the chat with him is Go Ahead and Die's debut album, which will be released 11th of June via Nuclear Blast. Now, regular listeners to the show will know I've already interviewed his son, Igor Amadeus Cavalera. So I don't dive into as much detail about the album here with Max because I've already done that with Igor. I thought I'd open it up a little bit. As you all know, well, regular listeners anyway, will know that I like to do. So I'll talk about Max's role as one of the godfathers of extreme metal because that is the case. I know a lot of people don't like to acknowledge Max and indeed South American heavy metal as the forefathers, or amongst the forefathers, probably I should say, of our great and respected genre of extreme metal. But go back into Wikipedia and have a look. You can see the Sarcophago albums and Volcano, or Volcano, I think is the band is pronounced in Portuguese, and Sepultura. They all came out around about, or actually in Sarcophago's case, I think it's before, no, Volcano's case, it's definitely before Possessed. And I'm not saying they even sound the same, but it's got that gruff, guttural energy. And Bestial Devastation is, that's extreme metal either way you want to sort of shift it. Just a very primitive version of it in the early 80s there, as it was written, recorded in 1985, maybe 1984 anyway, released in 1985. But you can only imagine Max and Igor, his brother, Igor I'm talking about this time around, sitting in their place there in Sao Paulo, churning out some riffs and some heavy beats and thinking, we're onto some pretty cool shit here. Oops, there goes my eBay alert. Turn that off. So anyway, here he is, the great man, Max Cavalera.
Killing technology.
Killing technology, good old voivod.
Yeah. That's what's happening, brother.
It is. Yeah, it's so weird. I don't know. I actually checked because of what happened with Dino. I checked your link like 3 times to make sure it worked, and then I interview a lot of indie bands as well as you know. Excuse me for saying it, but the rock stars, yourself and Dino. And this Ben from Steelborn, which is a band from Denmark, keeps on coming up now. And I have no idea what's going on, but it's good to finally, it's not finally, God, I've spoken to you half a dozen, I think 7 or 8 times at this point by now. But how have you been otherwise? How's life treating you?
Good. Can you see me and hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yeah, I can hear everything.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm doing okay, man. Thank you. Yeah, I got my vaccination. So it seems like things are going a bit back to normal here in the States. There's some talks about touring starting to happening again since August, September. So we're very hopeful, you know.
I'm very hopeful too that you guys can get down here. But look, before I talk about what you've been doing with Go Ahead and Die, I need to give you this feedback, and I hope this is appropriate. I had a conversation with Igor, your son, on Saturday, and my God, is he an impressive young man or what? You know, I told him the story about how I wouldn't expect you to remember this, and I know I've recounted this story every time, but I met you in the Hotel Roosevelt in Los Angeles, and you had your family with you. And you stood dutifully for 5 minutes whilst I got a pen from a very reluctant receptionist. And I couldn't remember who was who in the family between Zion and Igor there. But it's just so lovely to see that these young men, these boys, infants have become young men, and they're just such great representatives of our genre at the moment. So I just wanted to give you that feedback.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very proud of both of them, you know, and I get to jam with both, you know, both of them in different bands, and even other, you know, I have a stepson also, Richie, that is an Insight, great frontman. Jason would sometimes work as a road crew, so we have a full metal house, you know. But I'm very I think, you know, Igor is like an old soul. He's very much like an old soul. Like I don't feel he's much wiser and older than the actual age that he's in. He writes, all her books like Stephen King, and it was so cool to make this record with him because I let him took charge. It was more like his baby than mine. I let him run with it, like take the, carry this load, if you will. Like, let's make this together, but I'm gonna give you a lot of responsibility, and you better be up to the task. And he was, man. And he played all the bass on the whole record. We share all the riffs, and it was so funny because he's more used to do lyrics than me. I hate doing lyrics. I never like it. I'm caveman like that. And he was kind of like a lyric police. I'll write a line and he'll be like, "Oh, come on, Pops. You already said the line 10 times in your career. You cannot use those, you sing that already." And I'll be like, "Okay, I can do better. So I'll come up with a new line and a new word and a new idea." But we share everything like that on the record, which was great. It was really a bonding experience to make this record with him, and I really wanted to, because I always bonded with him, because I don't know if he told you, but he had diabetes when he was 1.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah. So a lot of times there was a lot of times where I did a concert, and right after the concert, I had to give him a shot of insulin, and between me and Gloria, we were the keepers of his health, and a lot of times we're like right after a show, I'll be doing finger pokes and doing insulin shots, and he was in Florida when the pandemic hit, and he was trying to escape the pandemic. So he came to Arizona, and I wanted to do something so I don't lose my mind with this pandemic. So we decided to make a record, and it was really just an amazing time together making the record. And I'm so impressed with him, and very, very proud and impressed,
I've got to ask, and I hope it's okay that I can ask a question like this, but you've got your shit together, both yourself and as a family. So I haven't spoken to Zion yet, but I imagine he's not too far away from the sort of character type that I discovered during my half an hour conversation with Igor. But yourself and Gloria, you haven't had it easy. You've had a lot of opposition through the years, and your kids have matured into such marvelous young men. What do you think the secret is, or is there no secret? Is it just because you're decent human beings and you've just got life within your soul?
I think one of the main things is that we took them around the world, and so they had a very first-hand education that you don't get in any school, that you only get it if you're traveling, So what we saw in countries like Russia and Indonesia, and they were all with us in a lot of these travelings that are, most of them, my kids were with us on those travelings. I think that really kind of opened their eyes and made them also less spoiled. Like here in America, there's so many people that are just spoiled, they have everything and they still complaining, and so you gotta, like, once you tour the world and you see other countries that having way harder than you, lifestyle, like real harsh lifestyle. And of course I come from Brazil, and we were really poor. My mom had to take care of me and Igor and my sister, and we used to live in one little shack in the back room of my grandma's house, and so we know how it is to work for what you want, to really be wanting something real bad, that you really have to work hard for it. It's not, nobody's gonna give that to you. You have to go and get it, So I think that those things really made impression on them, and I think and the other side of it, I think they're much more mellow than I was. At their age, I was doing all kinds of fucked up drugs, and I was just a bastard, touching everything and being wild. And I understand if they did it, but they don't really care for that. So I got lucky on that department. You don't have to worry about it. Because I've seen a lot of other families that struggle with that, and that would be something that it crossed my mind at some point. Like, oh man, what if one of them gets addicted to one of those things? Like that, I was addicted, like alcohol and drugs. But none of them did, and it's great. I love it. Sometimes I even say you guys can go really wild a little bit on tour, so you can just go wild. You have my permission to go wild. They just don't want to. It's okay. It's like whatever. It's whatever they want to. But they are very happy with what they're doing, and I told them that's the key to happiness: is do what you love. If you do what you love, you don't have to work one day in your life, and that's true.
You're a very good example of that. But look, I've got what you say there, as I say, set up the top there, the impression that I got is that Igor is well adjusted. And God knows there are so many kids these days, like you mentioned, in America, as the same in Australia, mate, where they're spoiled, yet they think they've got nothing, and they complain and they binge and witch and they whinge and they moan. But with a young man like Igor and the project here, Go Ahead and Die. Now, I asked him this question, and I won't tell you what he said to me, but I'm interested and I'm curious to your response. Who was the leader in this? Did you have to follow his instructions, or was it more collaborative?
I approach as wanted to give him a lot of responsibilities. That's why I say you should play all the bass, and we should do the riffs together because we're both guitar players. So we share the riffs and we share the lyrics. But one thing that was funny, I kept pushing to try to get more people in the band. And Igor really didn't want that. He wanted to be really a father and son thing, And I'm so glad that he did that, because otherwise it would have just turned into maybe Killer BQ Part 2, just a super group of death metal, death thrash metal players. And that is not really why we did this. We did it in the first place was just for the bond that I have musically with him. In fact, the whole record, we wrote the whole record together in a demo format with drum machine. And once Zach, the drummer, got involved, everything was already written. We didn't even have to write anything new, and we didn't really change much in the studio. We kept. Igor is very much. He knows what he likes, and he hates when I start changing stuff. So a lot of the times I wanted to keep changing the riffs. I wanted to keep fucking, and he's like, stop, it's good. And I'm glad that I agree with him. And now to me, it feels like the record is very much as primitive as it was first realized. We didn't really, because I think you can ruin it by overthinking it. If you overthink, especially in this kind of music. So I like the fact that the Go Ahead and Die record, it's very primitive, very raw, caveman. We call it caveman metal, but it's the attraction. It's what attracted me to punk rock when I was young, is that anybody could do it. You don't have to be a virtuoso like Eddie Van Halen. So anybody that knew some riffs could do it, and that's really cool.
Yes, indeed. What I mentioned to him, that to me it sounds like very early 90s Sepultura, cross between Discharge and a bit of Napalm Death and Destruction mixed in there as well. Do you agree with those comments?
Yeah, I think the marriage I was trying to do musically first was the two bands that we were kind of molding this thing were Discharge and Celtic Frost.
Oh, nice. Jesus. Celtic
But
Frost,
then,
yeah.
but then on this tree, so it was like a big tree, and on the branches would be stuff like Napalm Death, Carcass, Entombed, a little bit of Possessed, a little bit of a lot of the punk hardcore, Extreme Noise Terror, Concrete Socks, a lot of Finland hardcore. But I think the main ingredients to me at least, I feel the main ingredients is Celtic Frost and Discharge together, and I think it's I love it because I love these two bands very much. So we had a lot of the D beats from the Discharge and a lot of the slow Celtic Frost group. In fact, even my guitar sound is the closest I got to Tom Warrior in my whole career was on this record. I got really close to Tom G's guitar sound.
Incredible, yeah. Now, I'm just having to Google the name of the first album. Any other time I bloody remember it, but the one with the red and the black cover, I get it now because you've gone for that vibe, yeah, there you go. And what's that song that you covered with Sepultura? To say, Procreation of the Wicked.
Yep, you got it. Procreation of the Wicked. With the bending rip. Wow, it's a brilliant riff.
I think that Tom Warrior got inspiration from you guys in the way that you did it, because remember when he came back in 2006 and 7, he tuned way down to where you guys in Sepultura were tuning in the early 90s. And his version of Procreation of the Wicked that he was playing in Barkin at like 2007 and 2008, it sounded closer to your version than it did to his version. Did you hear that?
No, I have to check that out. I should check that out. Because it was funny because we did it in B. We tuned the guitar down to B.
Yeah.
And I think on More Details, it's tuned to E standard.
Yeah.
And we did the song together in Zurich. And we asked Tom to play with us. But we only knew our version in B. And I gave him the guitar and I would show him his own riff. And it was just a really awkward moment. Like, okay, this is how we play your song. That it should have never been like that, but he liked it. He thought it was cool, and I'm really happy that he did it again later in low tuning, because I think it's just more raw. Just sounds heavier with the low tuning. It's perfect for that kind of music. And there's a lot of cool death metal bands that tune really low right now. Stuff like Undeaf. Here in America, especially like Undeaf and like Necrot. I think they all tune to, I believe it's G. Some of it's just, so it's even lower than B. It's like real low, but you can still hear the notes, So it's still pretty listenable.
I touched on this last time we had a conversation, but I'm carrying the flag at the moment for South American extreme metal from the perspective that yourselves, being early Sepultura, yourself and Igor, I'm talking about your brother, Bestial Devastation came out a couple of years before Scream Bloody Gore. Now, no doubt you're aware of that. And I know that Bestial Devastation sounds a bit different to stuff that came afterwards, but to me, between early Sepultura with Bestial Devastation, what Volcano, I call it Volcano, but I think in Brazil it might be Volcano, and Sarcophago. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. My theory and my philosophy is that extreme metal actually started in South America, and you're a big part of that. I've just written a book and I've written about that. I've written exactly what my philosophy is and supported it with your releases and with the work that you did very early back then. But do you agree with what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the great man Chuck Schuldiner or Trey from Morbid Angel. I worship those guys. They're just magnificent. But I think credit must go where credit is due. And I have to put it down there that you truly are. I have to put it to you that I believe that you, alongside of those other two bands that I mentioned, Brazilian bands, are the true godfathers of extreme metal. Care to comment?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And even though a lot of the media doesn't look like that, I think a lot of the bands feel like that, especially when I talk with a lot of the when I talk to a lot of the black metal bands, they all really worship that sound, that Bestial Devastation, Morbid Visions, Sarcophago sound, all of them from Mayhem to Urgahall, to Dark Funeral, all of them really respect what we did. And to me, that's cool. It's cool that the bands know and respect, and I like that. And yeah, I think interesting to me, for me, it's that my career, I was able to touch so many different feelings and different sides of metal that I feel very blessed, because I got to be part of the extreme metal, black metal movement, and then the death thrash movement, and then the groove metal movement, industrial metal with Nail Bomb, and it continues, a little bit prog with the Killer Be Kill.
Sure.
But I love what you said, and I feel very humble. But in a way, I kind of agree. It was just so raw and angry, and it comes from a real angry place. It's not manufactured anger. It's not fake anger. We were really pissed. We were really ferocious at that time in our life. That's why those recordings came out like that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I like to say that Australia, I'm not going to say invented punk because that's not true, but one of the first ever identifiable punk outfits is the Saints right here in Brisbane. Yet a lot of Americans and the British press don't acknowledge that, but that is the case. They came out before the Ramones and well before the Sex Pistols, of course. And of course, that's by the same tangent in Brazil. You guys came out well before a lot of the American bands, but to your point, the media, there's two things. They don't have a lot of academic rigor around their research, so they don't understand how to research appropriately and correctly. And the other thing is, I just think they're reluctant to because of the many twists and turns that you've identified in a positive sense that your career has taken. I think they're reluctant to actually put you on that pedestal. And it's always been very, certainly as an adult, when I gained an awareness and an understanding of these things, I thought it was very interesting because the metal press is so European and American centric, isn't it?
Yeah, it is what it is, man. But I'm super happy that you fight for us. Thank you, sir.
Well, they're all the way, yeah. Now, with Go Ahead and Die, I know there's the COVID restrictions are going on, but hopefully they're lifting soon with the vaccinations happening. You mentioned up top that you got your vaccination. Are you planning on doing a run of shows, and might we see you down here in Australia?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, especially Go Ahead and Die is such a kind of an easy thing to put together. It's just really, we just got to find a bass player, and it will not be hard to find somebody really appropriate that can join us. And but we already play a lot of the stuff live. Many times since the record came out. I did a Max Tracks with Igor. We did Truckload for the Body. There's already, it's been one of the we did like the whole album we played. We're hoping to somehow stream that in the future, maybe in June when the record comes out. But yeah, we love to either do a headline tour or be part of somebody else's tour. I think this band will be perfect to tour with somebody like Napalm Death or Carcass or one of the pioneers of that earache era. And I know Jeff actually made the logo for Go Ahead and Die. Jeff Walker, and cool. I always love Jeff's art. I know that he designed the earache logo, and he designed Scum, the album cover Scum. So he's a brilliant artist. He's a really good artist, and it was cool because we didn't ask him to do the Go Ahead and Die logo. I talked to Jeff like maybe 2 years ago I went in the tour bus. They came here in town. Went to see their show. He's a good guy. And I don't know him that much. I know of him. I know of Carcass, but he made that on his own. So very, very cool. Hopefully we get one of those tours would be really cool. If not, we just do our own tour. But for sure, we're gonna play live because this record deserves to be played live. It'll be brilliant.
Absolutely, yeah. Hey, have you got another call now booked for right now, or have we got time for a couple more questions?
Unfortunately,
Sweet.
we have to do it.
Well, no doubt, mate. I said it last time, with how productive and how creative you are, no doubt it'll be within 6 months we have another chat. So I look forward to it, mate. And congratulations on everything so far again as well.
We'll talk again soon, brother.
No worries, brother. Thanks very much, eh?
All right. Take care, man. See you.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Well, there you have it. That's my conversation with Max Cavalera from Kill or Be Killed, Go Ahead and Die, Soulfly, ex-Sepultura, Nail Bomb. I could go on. You know who the man is. He is a legend. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Thanks so much for tuning in.